while we let people come in. So I'm going to start broadcasting right now.
It's great. We've got people jumping onto this call right now. It's fun to see the list. We're just going to give everyone a few minutes to join us and get settled. Hopefully everyone's got their coffee, and Eddie, you and I can just chat.
That's right. Christy, what's the weather like there today?
It is hot and sticky.
Oh, is it?
Hot and sticky, and it's like right on the verge of a thunderstorm. So I'm looking forward to that because it'll
Well,
hopefully break it a
it's
little
cool and foggy here in Halifax today.
bit. Okay, well, it's Halifax.
But it is supposed to warm up. And actually on the weekend, on Saturday night, we had the largest single drop in temperature in 17 years. We
Wow.
went from being like 35 degrees to, I think it was 14 degrees in less than an hour.
Did you get a thunderstorm something in the middle there?
No, there was a risk of a thunderstorm, and we were all sitting out on the deck, and then my brother sends me a text, and he's on the other side of Halifax. He goes, "Did you get a cold breeze coming in?" And I'm like, "No, it's beautiful here." And then literally 45 seconds later, this really cold breeze comes in, and we all go scurrying back into the house. So
Wow.
yeah.
35 degrees to start. That's hot for Halifax.
It is hot. Yeah, it was. I felt like I was in the Caribbean. It was really nice.
Yeah. It's the AC in my car went a few weeks ago, and it's the wrong time of year for that to happen because I've not been appreciating the heat very much. So
No.
yeah, it's not done good things for my hair. The humidity plus no AC. It's bad. It's bad combo. Yeah, but it's supposed to, it's supposed to drop a little bit over the next day or so, which will be nice.
Oh, nice. Well, that's good. You get a little bit of a break.
Yeah, hopefully next week will be good with the Canada Day holiday right in the middle of the week. So
yeah, actually, it's my wedding anniversary in the middle of the week next week. So we always do something special, and we started our marriage. We've been married over 35 years, 36 years. We actually go camping. So
okay.
we started our marriage camping, and we're in our later years, we still enjoy to go camping on our honeymoon.
Wonderful. And campgrounds are open in Nova Scotia, I assume.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
I think it's 50% capacity, but we were in early and was able to get a spot. And where the holidays in the middle of the week, it's a little bit easier. So.
Well, happy anniversary. Where are you headed?
What's that?
Where are you headed to go camping?
Rizzers Beach, which is on the south shore of Nova Scotia, down around that Lunenburg area, Bridgewater, Lunenburg.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of my roommates in university was from Maitland, just outside Bridgewater. So
okay.
Yeah, so I've been there. It's lovely. I love it there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what are we doing for time here? 10:01? We can get
9:01 here in Ontario.
Oh yeah, 10:01 here.
Yeah.
I actually got an email from someone, Nicole, she's probably on the line now, and she said, "I missed your webinar." And I said, actually, no, you didn't, because it doesn't start for 40 minutes. So I think
good.
And I see Vanessa, who just went on chat there. She loves Rizzers Beach.
Oh, wonderful. So Vanessa is our board chair, and she is also from the East Coast. So there you go. So she knows, she knows exactly where you're going.
Nice.
Yeah. And that is great. I'm excited that Vanessa's here to join us. But yes, she would definitely know that. We've got Todd on the line. We've got Sean. I've got Geraldine on there. Donna's there. Kate's there. We've got a good party. We've got a good crowd.
Good.
Yeah. Wonderful. So you let me know when you're ready to start, Eddie, and
I'm ready anytime you want.
Wonderful. Well, I'll go ahead and do the official welcome then. How's that? So.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Christy from the Brampton Board of Trade, and we are excited to have everybody join us this morning. So Eddie and I have just been chatting a little bit informally here, and that's going to be the tone of our session. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to learn some stuff. We're going to chat, and everyone is going to leave motivated and excited and encouraged. I want to talk a little bit about just the Brampton Board of Trade and what we are doing right now. We bring business together. That is what the Brampton Board of Trade does. We help businesses grow, prosper, meet other businesses, expand their networks. So This is one really great way for us to do that. And obviously the pandemic has changed everybody's business, ours included. So we've been really excited to explore the world of Zoom with everybody else and looking at virtual events. So we have the opportunity to host great speakers like Eddie. At the end of the session, I'll go through some of the other upcoming sessions we have. I do want you to encourage you to take a look at bramptonbot.com/expert series, where we've brought in a number of experts talking about lots of different issues that are impactful to you and your business at this time. Also check out bramptonbot.com/reopening resources. Quite a few of our members are offering different services that will help in your reopening, whether it's reopening of the business or changing, pivoting, whatever your business happens to be doing at this time. As we graduate tomorrow into phase 2, in the Peel region, which is very exciting. A lot of businesses are looking to see sort of what's coming next. So we can help you with that by taking a look at our website. So we are really excited about all of those things, and thank you all for joining us. So Eddie reached out to us, and he'll tell you a little bit about why he's running these sessions, but this is an opportunity for us to get motivated, get exciting, and come out of the pandemic ahead. Pandemic's not over, we know that, but you know, the times are changing. So how do we come out of this time a little bit ahead? And he's gonna look at setting some goals and how we're gonna do that. And I'm excited. Eddie's a pretty engaging guy, which is great. So I'm gonna go ahead and just read his bio here for us, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Eddie. So Canadian born, in case anyone didn't pick up at the beginning there, he's in Nova Scotia right now in Halifax, where it is not hot and sweaty like it is here in Brampton. Canadian born, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, seminar leader, and corporate trainer. He's a sought-after resource for both government and corporate clients. Eddie's unprecedented success is based on his powerful ability to close the gap between business results and personal development. He inspires greatness by awakening the talent in each individual, and that sounds very exciting. I'm looking forward to that. A very successful professional speaker, his career experience as a seasoned business executive quickly builds credibility for his topics as he can personally relate business success stories and lessons learned through his 35+ years of experience. Clearly started very, very young. Eddie is an authority on changing demographics, diversity, performance development, and productivity improvement. He specializes in leadership, employee engagement, employee attraction, retention, and the psychology of success. So we are very happy and very fortunate to have Eddie join us today and walk us through some really encouraging, exciting things. We are going to have the opportunity to listen to Eddie, and we're going to have the chance to drop some questions into the Q&A as well, which Eddie will address at the end. So over to you, Eddie.
Awesome. Thank you. So if you have questions that you would like to, because the way I'll do this, I'll talk for probably 25 minutes and then we'll do a Q&A. So if you could put them in the Q&A and not in the chat, because the chat tends to disappear if there's a bunch of people that put stuff in chat. So put it in the Q&A, and then we'll come back and we'll address those questions at the end. So just before I give you a little bit of a preamble on why I do this and the purpose of this and what I hope that you're gonna get from it, I'm gonna do two little polls for you, because I wanna get a sense for how you're feeling. And what's really interesting is the polls have changed, or the results have changed as we got further into the pandemic. So the first poll is your thoughts on COVID-19. So I'm gonna launch the poll right now, and just tell me what your thoughts are. Are you extremely worried, very worried, somewhat worried, not so worried, or not worried at all? So it looks like somewhat worried is winning at 53%. I'll just give it one more second. So extremely worried, we only have one person that's extremely worried, which is good. Very worried, about 20%. The big number is somewhat worried. So let me end that one, and I'm going to do another poll, because I want, and I'm going to come back as we do the presentation. I'm actually going to come back on why this is relevant. And then the next poll is what area in your life would you like to set some goals? Because there's some interesting statistics coming out of people that are kind of in this pandemic, what they're, that they feel are actually going to come out the other side kind of in a better place. So right now finance is winning. It's So we got 38% finance, 24 health, 28 career. I'll give it another second. All right, there we go. So we have basically a tie between finance and health. So I'll try and blend what I'm talking about kind of around those couple areas. So I want to share a screen with you here, and then I'm going to get started. We'll do a little bit of a preamble on what you're going to achieve and why I set out to do this. So I have to tell you how this kind of all started for me, and why I wanted to do these sessions. So my goal was that I would reach out to different boards and chambers of commerce across Canada, because there's a lot of like-minded people in these organizations, very similar to me. I'm an entrepreneur. I saw basically 95% of our business evaporate at the end of March. So I thought, what could I do that could help people? Now, my area of expertise traditionally is leadership, engagement, the trends in the Canadian workplace, that whole impact of the aging demographics and so on. But I'm a best-selling author of a book entitled Bring About What You Think About. And that's what I want to share with you a little bit today, because I want to kind of lift your spirits a little bit. And I'll tell you how this kind of happened and why I thought I would do this. Just before the pandemic kind of shut everything down in the country, I was in Prince Edward Island, which is one of my absolute favorite places in the world to travel. And I was doing a presentation for an economic development group on the island called CBDC and one of the local chambers. We had about 120 people in the audience. I was presenting this topic, and it would have been a 1-hour presentation around the topic. We're going to just kind of skim through a little bit today. And it was right around when everyone was hearing so much stuff about the pandemic, and we were all so worried and scared. And people came up to me afterwards and they said, Eddie, you know, this is exactly what I needed to hear right now. And then the next day I was heading off to Fredericton to do a presentation. And when I got there is when Prime Minister Trudeau basically shut the country down. My wife and I had to get back in the car and head back to Halifax. And that's kind of where we've been ever since. So I wanted to reach out to people and do a little bit of a kind of a cheer you up thing. So just a little bit about, you know, who I am. I am a professional speaker. I do about 75 to 100 keynotes a year. I do about 100 flights, legs of flights, and stay in about 100 hotels a year. So I miss the audience. I really, really miss the interaction with human beings. I miss hugging people. I miss shaking hands. I have an amazing wife who works with me, and 2 amazing young adult, I call them children, but they're young adult siblings that we would have. And, you know, I'm glad that I'm in Nova Scotia with them right now during this time. So here's what I want you to walk away with by the end of the webinar. I'm going to give you a statement that if you can kind of get your head wrapped around this one statement, I'm telling you, it can have an absolute profound impact on your life. And that could be in your personal life, your career, your health, your finances. It's kind of one statement that really can move you in the direction that you want to go. We're going to talk about the role your emotions play in in successfully achieving goals or success in general. And that's why I did the little poll around the beginning, just to kind of see how you were feeling, because it has a huge impact. And I think more now than ever, 3 steps to kind of setting goals that stick, and then a couple things that can help accelerate your goal setting process. Now, I have to tell you, I don't believe there's probably a better time in history than right now, where we have this opportunity to hit the reset button. Now, I don't mean for everyone, because there are a lot of people that are just, their noses to the grindstone, and they're working really hard. There'll be a lot of frontline people who we're also very grateful for. They didn't get that, you know, kind of quiet time, but there are a lot of people right now that are looking inward, and they're saying, can I use this opportunity to hit the reset button? When I asked areas of your life that you wanted to make changes, statistically right now, a lot of people feel they will come out of this COVID lockdown in better physical shape than they went into it. So, and I don't know if you're seeing it in your neighborhood, but we're seeing a lot of people walking. I'm finding people in my neighborhood I didn't even know lived here that have never kind of ventured outside of their house. So we're seeing them out walking and walking their dogs and so on. So I always kind of ask, what area of your life would you like to change? So if you think about this as we're going through it, is it your finances? Is it a relationship? Is it your career? Is it your health? Think of an area of your life where you would like to make some changes, and then think of how you can apply the things that I talk about in those areas of your life. for me personally, I really tried to use this time to hone some skills in areas of my life that I just didn't have the opportunity to go with my kind of busy travel. So I have to tell you how this all started for me. As it started in a very unlikely place, it actually started in the old Triangle Pub in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And sometimes if you want to be inspired, head off to the bar. But in my particular case, it was having a lunch with a client of mine. And I was a senior vice president in a large aerospace company here on the East Coast. And it was right around, and we're heading into the holiday season at the end of the year. And we were talking about all the things we were going to try to achieve the next year. And I was telling, his name was Steven. I was telling Steven, I said, we're going to launch an airline next year. And I was going to lose 20 pounds. And I was going to take my family to Mexico. And partway through the conversation, Steven looked at me and he said, Ed, he said, I got to tell you, if you would change the way you think, your whole life would change. And I looked at him, I said, Steven, what are you talking about? He said, Eddie, he said, I don't mean to offend you. He said, but you have what I would call stinking thinking. I said, pardon me, I have what? He said, you have stinking thinking. He said, you're telling me your goals in one breath, and in another breath, you're making up an excuse why you're not going to achieve it. I said, no, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. You're going to launch an airline, but the price of fuel is so high, you're not sure if it would be prohibitive. You're going to lose 20 pounds. You've tried to do it every year and you haven't been successful. You're going to take your family to Mexico, but you're not really sure if you're able to get the time off. I said, Stephen, I've read all those books. Norman Vincent Peale, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Dale Carnegie. He said, Eddie, he said, there's a big difference between reading a good book and actually applying that in your life. So I went home that day and I Googled some of the stuff that we had chatted about. And little did I know, the second I pressed the enter button, my life was going to change forever. It would send me down a path that would be long lasting and far reaching. And I started to notice changes. And the first change I noticed was in me physically. I went from weighing 235 pounds to 195 pounds. But I became a better husband. I became a better manager at work. I became a better father. I became a better friend. And then I started to notice my sphere of influence changing people around me. First it was my family, and then it was my clients, and it was people that I coached, and it was organizations I worked with. I could measure it in their profitability and in their employee engagement numbers. So I ended up writing a book about it. I'll bring about what you think about, and we've literally sold thousands and thousands of copies. It's all over the world now, and it's a must read in many organizations. And what I wanted to do was take something that people try and make so darn complicated, and that's personal development, and make it really easy. Something you could sit down and in 2 or 3 hours, read the book and apply it in your life right away. So what I want to do is I want to share with you some highlights from the book. Now, I did a lot of research on this when I first started writing the book, and I looked at kind of science, psychology, and things we can't explain around goal setting or the way we make decisions as humans in general. So let me kind of run you through the 3 of them. The first one, from a pure science perspective, here's what we know. When you have fear, anxiety, and stress in your life, the brain operates completely different than when you're happy, passionate, excited. So when you're happy, passionate, excited, or in the work environment, if you're engaged at work or you feel you're on purpose or you're doing the right things, the brain actually operates at a higher frequency, so the brain functions different. You create more serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone. You're more creative, you give better customer service, you solve problems better. Those people that sell for a living, you actually sell more products and services when we kind of talk about it as being in the zone. So in my previous life, I would have managed sales organizations that would have done in excess of $1 billion worth of products and services in sales. So we really learned pretty early that the kind of mental aspect of our sales team was critical, that if we can get them in that right headspace. But something interesting happens when you pass fear, anxiety, and stress. When you get down into that end of the scale, the brain actually slows down. So it physically operates at a different frequency. The body stops secreting serotonin and starts to secrete cortisol, which is a fight or flight hormone. You become more lethargic. You don't solve problems as well. You actually don't sell as well. You don't give as good customer service. So we know from a pure science perspective, when you're happy, passionate, excited, you function better. And that's why I asked you the question at the beginning of what your thought was. Are you worried? Because worry is one of the things that brings us down that scale around fear, anxiety, and stress. And it impedes our ability to be successful in any area of our life we're trying to set goals, be it physical, professional, or in a personal side. And then I looked at psychology, and I don't want to simplify any of these, but if you thought of psychology as kind of questions and answers, like you might have get up this morning and you asked yourself a question, and maybe you were feeling a bit down. So you get up this morning and you said, you know what? I'm just not feeling good. I'm feeling a little down. In a millisecond, your brain will look for a reason, and it has to. It's the way the brain is designed. It'll go into your unconscious, it'll search around for some data, it'll pull some information out, and it'll say, you lost that deal at work the other day, you put 10 pounds on in the COVID lockdown, you got in a fight with your spouse the other day, you're a loser. And what happens is we actually go out into the world and we look for proof. We get in an argument with somebody, we get stuck in traffic, we lose another deal. If you did one thing different tomorrow, this was the only thing you got away with or learned from my session here today. If you did this one thing tomorrow morning, it'll start to change your life. If you get up tomorrow morning and you said, why do I feel so good? Or why do I feel so grateful? In a millisecond, your brain will look for an answer. It'll search around the data and they'll say, you live in a wonderful country, you're surrounded by great people, you have a good support group, you belong to a wonderful organization, you're a winner, and you'll look for proof. You'll have a great conversation with somebody. You'll win an opportunity at work. You'll have a great conversation with somebody in your house. And then I looked at the area of her life that we can't explain, the weird things that happen. And you've all had this happen where maybe you thought about somebody and you open your Facebook feed and they're on the front cover of your Facebook, or you thought about somebody and they picked the phone up and they called you right away. So let me share with you one that was really kind of a game changer for me. It really made me think about this. A few years ago, I was asked to speak at a very prestige event called the $1 Million Roundtable. It's known as the MDRT. It's the top 35,000 financial planners in the world. They always meet somewhere exotic. Usually about 8,000 get together every year. And the year that I got together with this group that I got to speak at, it was at the exotic location of downtown Toronto. Now, the reason why it was in Toronto is in Canada, there are not a lot of places you can accommodate an 8,000 person conference, hence it ends up in a major city. But after the conference was over, there was a young lady from Vietnam, and she left the conference and she was flying back to Vietnam, and she had a connecting flight at the LAX airport. When she gets to the LAX airport, she decides she wants to look for a Starbucks and order herself a cup of coffee. She arrives at the Starbucks at the LAX airport and she orders herself a medium cup of coffee. Now, Starbucks don't sell medium coffee. They sell grande coffee because it's really fancy. So when she gets the grande coffee, she looks at it and she goes, oh my goodness, that's way too much coffee for me. Well, unbeknown to her, there were 3 young ladies on the line behind her on the same connecting flight to Vietnam. They looked at her and they said, why don't we order 2 cups of coffee? We'll ask them for an empty cup and we'll sit down and share the coffee among the 4 of us. So they sat at the table at the LAX airport, and the young lady who left the conference that I spoke at in Toronto, she was telling the story about growing up in Vietnam. And she said, I live in a city now, but I grew up in a village. She said, in fact, we were so poor growing up that after my parents had 8 children, they gave the kids away. And she said, I was given away. And she said, I was raised by an amazing family, and it's why I am who I am today, but they fed me, and I worked the fields for that family when I was a child. There was another young lady at the table, and she looked at her with a bit of a confused look on her face. She said, I'm actually from the same village as you. She said, a similar situation, we gave children away as well, she said, which was a very common practice in that community. But she said, unlike you, she said, I was raised by my biological parents. At a chance meeting at the LAX airport, they discovered they were sisters. So that's when you're at the right place at the right time. So I said to myself, I said, Eddie, well, what if it didn't matter whether it was something that was rooted in science or whether it was something that was more psychological or something I couldn't explain? Is there a process I can use to achieve more goals or bring more things into my life that I would like to have and less things that I don't want? And this is the one statement I said at the very beginning, if you can get your head wrapped around this, it can have a profound impact on your life. Wherever you focus your attention and you put energy toward that, you're going to bring more of that into your life. Now, anyone that's on this call right now that's an entrepreneur, you know that. You know that when you have an idea and you focus on it, you'll put 20 hours a day into it. You put all your energy behind it because you're driven toward that. So But let me dig a little bit into this. The attention or the thoughts that you're putting on your goal does one of two things. And this was the interesting thing when Stephen and I met at the old Triangle Pub. Your thought patterns are either moving you toward achieving your goals, or it's moving you away from achieving your goals. And when I was in the old Triangle Pub with Stephen and I was saying we're going to launch an airline, but in the same breath that the price of fuel was going to make it prohibitive, we wouldn't be able to compete against the other discount airline in Canada. I had conflicting goals. I'm gonna lose 20 pounds. You know, I've tried to do this before, Stephen, and I just haven't been successful at it. I hope I can do it. I'm gonna take my family off to Mexico, but you know, with all this stuff going on at work, I'm really not sure if I can get the time off. So every thought you have does one of those two things. So if you're, you know, thinking about your business and worrying about your business, then it has that conflicting impact. One's bringing you in one direction, one's bringing you in the other direction. And hence, the other thing that we talked about was the importance of your emotions. When you're happy, passionate, excited, we tend to literally bring goals toward us. We're more creative. We come up with better solutions. We have more energy. When we have fear, anxiety, and stress in our life, we literally push our goals away. And we see this in sales organizations all the time. You'll get a sales team that's on fire. They're in the zone. They're unstoppable. And then what happens is they get to a place where they start to lose opportunities and they couldn't close a deal if their life depended on it. And we see them either spiraling up or spiraling down. So when we match the emotions together, that's when the magic really happens. Now, if we had more time together, I'd dig a little deeper in this, but I want you at least to walk away with a little bit of a sense for the importance of tying your emotions to what you're trying to achieve or your thought patterns. Now, I have to tell you, I've traveled all over the world. I've met the best people in every industry. I've met the best school teachers, the best doctors and nurses and engineers and technology. I've met the best undertakers. I've probably spoken at 10 different funeral services associations and organizations in the world. I have never met anybody make it to the top by complaining. I've never seen it happen. I have seen people get ahead. My dad even had a saying for that. He'd always say, a squeaky wheel gets grease. I think if you complain enough, you'll get something. Thursday afternoon off, 25-cent raise, but not long-lasting happiness and success. Long-lasting happiness and success comes from aligning your thoughts and your emotions. That's where the magic happens. That's a sweet spot of employee engagement in an organization, is when there's clear goals in an organization and you leverage the strength of the people and you get their emotions behind what they're trying to achieve. That's where all of the magic happens. So how do we make it work? There's 3 simple steps. And if you follow the steps, even if you don't believe it, if you follow the steps, it'll work. And the first step is you've got to identify the area of your life that you want to set some goals. And there's kind of 2 ways I always tell people to do this. If I was sitting down with you right now and I was coaching you, there's a process that we would go through. But the very first thing in identifying your goals is I would want you to listen to your emotions. And more importantly, I'd want you to listen to your negative emotions. Now, the reasons why your negative emotions are so important is because your negative emotions tell you a story. They tell you the area of your life you're not happy with the results that you're getting, and the area of your life that you want to make some changes. So for me, when I would think about my health, being 235 pounds and my lack of energy and you know, that shortness of breath and those types of things, that stress, fear, anxiety, and stress would make me, the opposite of that is the goal that I would be looking for. So if you're stressed about your health, you want to be more healthy. If you're stressed about your finance, you want to be more financially secure. If you're stressed about work, you want a more happy work relationship. So you look at your negative emotions, you don't dwell on them, you use them to identify your goals. And then the other thing is, there are some goals you just know. You sat down in December, maybe in a drunken stupor on December 31st, and you said, I want to lose weight. I want to buy a new house this year. I'd like to get a promotion at work. We want to have children. I want to send my kids to university. There are some goals you just intuitively know, and you would write those down. So from looking at your emotions and writing goals you know down, I write them on a dream sheet. Now, I'm a huge believer in a dream sheet because when you write something down, something magic happens in the brain. And scientists call this RAS, or the function of the brain called RAS. And what it happens is, once you write something down and you kind of impregnated on your unconscious mind. It looks for clues when you're not paying attention. Now, everyone that's on this call, you've experienced this. Maybe you thought you're going to buy a new car. You're going to buy a Honda Civic. You want to buy a silver one with 4 doors. You will notice every Honda Civic that's on the road. If you drive a motorcycle, you notice every motorbike that's on the road. When I bought my new glasses, I noticed everybody's glasses. And what that is that's a brain's way of giving you clues around the goals that you're setting. So simply writing your goals down, reviewing them for 30 days, every day. So I write my goals down and I have them on my iPhone. I have them in the cloud, so they're kind of everywhere. I review them every day. And what it does is it impregnates it into my unconscious. That's step number 1. Step number 2, you have to believe you can do it. Belief is the fuel that allows you to achieve things. So if you don't believe you can achieve a goal, you don't have the fuel or the energy for you to be able to do it. If you think about it, it's about thoughts and energy, right? So if you think of any area of your life where you're already achieving goals, you believe you can do it. That's a big part of why you're doing it. Those of you that might be on this call that are maybe a golfer and you believe you can break 100 because you've hit in the 90s or maybe in the 80s before, when you step on the first tee box, you believe you can do it. So you have a much higher likelihood of breaking 100. I, on the other hand, I don't believe I could ever break 100. Like maybe on the first 9 holes, but not on the whole 18 of them. So for me, I wouldn't have that level of belief. So your goal has to be believable, but it should be a stretch. Step 3, and this is the area most people fail at goal setting. I think most people kind of understand the area of their life they want to set some goals. And I think a lot of people believe they can do it. I think where most people fail at goal setting, they're not receptive. They don't allow it to happen. They actually block the goal from coming into their life. Now, I can go pretty deep into this part of it, but the essence of being receptive is you need to become the person you would be as if you already achieved the goal. Because if you think about it, every area of your life where you're already knocking it out of the park, it's because you are the exact type of person you need to be to do that. Take your health, for example. If you're really healthy, it's because you are that person. You're giving your body all of the nourishment and excitement and everything it needs to be healthy. If you're knocking it out of the park at work, it's because you're putting the time in, you have the skill, you've learned the knowledge, you're doing all of the right things. So you have to become the person you would need to be as if you had already achieved the goal. And you need to take a real honest look at yourself and say, am I that person? Am I that loving person in the relationship? Am I that hardworking employee? Am I taking care of my body? Now, there's 2 ways to accelerate this. The first way is to give. And the interesting thing with giving, you need to give in the area of your life you're lacking the most. So, for example, if I think of health and I think of my own health at 235 pounds, I wasn't giving myself what I needed to be healthy. I wasn't giving my body the water it needed, the food it needed, the exercise, the nourishment, the loving, the caring. So ask yourself, in the area of your life where you're maybe not getting the results, are you giving it as much as, if it's at work, are you giving it 100%? Are you skilled? Are you knowledge? Are you reading things about work? Are you doing everything you can to be the best you can be? And ask yourself, in the area of my life that I'm lacking, is that where I'm giving? And the last thing, just before we wrap up, is to live in an attitude of gratitude. Now, the reason why this is so critical is next to love, gratitude is the most powerful emotion the human spirit has. Now, I have a couple little kind of cheating things that I do to increase gratitude in my life. One is I carry this pen in my pocket. It's a pen that a staff had all pitched in and bought it for me. I'd say close to 20 years ago now. I really guard it with my life. Every time I sell a book and I sign it with this pen. Every contract I do, I sign with the pen. But more importantly, every time I touch the pen, I think of something to be grateful for. When I lay it down at the end of the night, I think of something to be grateful. When I put it in my pocket, I think of something to be grateful. And I wear a little bracelet. It's a little beaded bracelet. I actually make them for all my friends now. We call them gratitude bracelets. And when I would fly a lot, when I would get on the plane, I would simply count the beads. And each bead, I would think of something to be grateful that happened that day. The wonderful person I met at the airport, the amazing meal that I had at the restaurant, the nice people I met at a venue. And you'd be surprised if you really focus your attention on how you can think about things to be grateful for. Now, the reason why it's so important, if you think of the title of my book, Bring About What You Think About. If you think about things to be grateful, you will bring more things to be grateful into your life. So it becomes a critical factor in moving your thinking toward where you want to go. So I want to wrap up with a couple things that I want to offer you up that might be able to help you through this. When I wrote the book, Bring About What You Think About, and I would sit down and I would start to coach people, one of the things that I realized was the thing that robs us of our goals more than anything else is stress. And I don't think there's probably been a time in my lifetime, and I would probably suspect close to most people that are on this call right now, in your lifetime as well, where there has been more stress. I think that we are under a tremendous amount of stress. So we developed a stress management program a few years back, and we used to sell this program, and it's a series of videos, and it helps you identify your stressors. So I'm going to send you an email in about a half an hour, and you will have access to this program free. And what's really cool about it is you can identify your stressor, and what's stressing you right now might be completely different 6 months from now. You'll be able to go back and look at it, watch a little video on it, and it'll teach you the areas of your life you control and the areas of your life you don't. It definitely doesn't replace your therapist, but you know, it does help. Share it with your family members, share it with your staff, wherever you want to do. It's a great little program, and it's completely free. We have another couple little free programs as well. We have little inspirational Mondays. So every couple of weeks we do an inspirational video series based on some highlights from the books. They're about 4 or 5 minute videos, and we do them with kind of doing them with your staff in mind, so you can do them as part of your staff meeting. Once you get access to it, each one you'll have access to it for a year. So if your staff meeting's on Thursday, you don't have to watch it on Monday. And then we have a Leadership Thursday, and that one's really more around our leadership series. And that can also be watched with your staff. So you can do the same thing. You can have them as part of your staff meeting as a little bit of a, kind of a give back. Then there's a couple things that, if you're interested in the book, we've got in stock left now, probably about 45 copies of the book that we can ship out, and they're $20. I'll send you a link that if you are interested in the book. It's a great summertime read. It's literally a 3-hour read. It's kind of done like a little bit of a workbook, so you can do some exercises in the back. If you want to take it to another level, we have an online book training program that literally walks you through the book, kind of as if I was your coach, but they're done in a series of videos. And that one we sell for $60, but you actually get the book free. So it's a pretty good deal as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have Christy come back, and I'm going to shut my little thing here, and we can do a little bit of Q&A. And I'd love to hear from you, anything you want to talk. And you know what? You don't have to, it doesn't have to necessarily be just about this. It can be anything that's on your mind around getting back to work, the COVID, anything that's kind of on your mind.
Thanks, Eddie. Well, while we wait for a couple of questions there, I'm wondering how many people really focused on one of your earlier statements, which was if you need inspiration, go to the bar. Because I'm thinking that some people may take that very seriously.
And I think they're opening in your area, aren't they, this week?
They are, yes. So we are excitingly moving into phase 2. But one question I have for you is, you talked a lot about, sort of, being positive and thinking about, where you want to go and what you want to do. Now is a tough time to do that. People are separated from their families. They, for those of us who have young children, we have spent a lot of time with our kids in these past 3 months, and there's not a lot of time for that, that self-care piece, that time to think about it. So talk to me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Well, it is an interesting time, and we have this organization in close to us called Hatfield Farms. It's a place where people can go and ride horses and go on hay rides, and they always put a funny sign outside. And I drove by the other day, and they had a sign out, and it said one husband for sale on Kijiji, call for details. So I think in some cases, because we've been locked down so much, it creates that level of stress. But it's an interesting thing because we're missing something. We're missing that human interaction, other people that we would be around. In fact, the brain has this function. It has a gland that produces a hormone called oxytocin. and it's known as the cuddle hormone. So what activates the cuddle hormone is hugging. So, and that's hence how they come up with the cuddle hormone. And one of the things that people are really craving is human interaction with people, just people that might be outside their bubble. And I'm sure there are people that are on this call right now that have experienced this where they are allowed now to go to another level of connections, maybe grandparents or something like that, and were overwhelmed with emotion when they would hug them or be around them because they didn't realize that the body craved that oxytocin so much. So, you know, if you have this opportunity to be around people, make sure that you do have that human interaction, that you're, you know, hugging but the other thing that activates oxytocin in the brain is forgiveness and confiding in people. So if you're separated from loved ones that you can't talk to, find a way to communicate with them, to confide with them. You know, we use obviously FaceTime with our family all the time. We use a party something app. My daughter got us on so we can all get together. But find ways that you can talk. And then forgiveness is another one. So if you're kind of holding on to something, then forgiveness is another way. But you really want to find ways to create that oxytocin. For me, it's always about, how do I move up that scale? Happy, passionate, excited. How do I get more of that in my life and less of the fear, anxiety, and stress? Because I know I perform better when I'm up there.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple of questions here in the chat. So one from Susan: how do you combat when you work with negative people or complainers? And I think we could all probably think of a few. It's hard to stay in your positive mind frame. Do you have any best tips and tricks to get past that? So how do we deal with the negative Nellies?
Yeah, and you know, that is a good question. I'll tell you what happened to me. And in 2005, when I really started to head down this path, I was surrounded by negative people. I think I attracted them. I think I was part of the problem. I enjoyed the bantering and that kind of a conversation. When I started to really, really focus on being positive, and you'll go, and here's what'll happen. If you decide today that I'm going to take this opportunity, I'm going to start thinking more positive. The first thing is awareness. You'll become aware of how many times you personally think of negative things, but you're also going to become very aware of the people around you and how negative they are. And I'll tell you what happened in our life, and both my wife and I would attest to this. A lot of the negative people around us started to disappear. They just, I don't know, maybe I wasn't interesting enough anymore. And we started to change the circle of our friends. But here's the real rub on negative people versus positive people. There is nothing you can do that change a negative person. They have to want to change themselves. So the only thing you could possibly do is introduce them to positive thoughts. Like, well, have you thought about it from this perspective? And maybe get them to go in a more positive notion. But the key here is your emotions really control your success and happiness. And for me, I don't let them in. Because as soon as I let a negative person influence my life, I'm giving control to them. So if we're surrounded by negative people, you want to keep yourself as positive as you can because it's in your best interest. So for me, you know, I almost let it wash off now, if that's a term you could, you know, if someone's really negative, and there's a lot of stuff going, a lot of conspiracy stuff going on Facebook. I just look at it, I just put it off to the side, and I focus on the things I want to focus on. So I'd always go back to look at gratitude, the people that you love around you, those types of things.
Yeah, I think that's some great information there for sure, because there's so much negativity out there, especially, I mean, we're all spending, you know, a lot of time on social media right now, and boy, there's a lot of it there.
You know, I have a level of expertise around employee engagement. So I've read probably 125 employee engagement surveys of Canadian companies. And Gallup will tell you that your employees fit into 3 categories. Engaged make up of 27% of your workforce. Unengaged makes up 59%. Don't let the word unengaged lead you to believe they're not good people. They're great people. They're productive. They're just not your best. And then we had this group called 14% actively disengaged, and they're the real negative ones at work, and they're quite destructive. They have about they have a negative 20% productivity rate in your organization, and that's probably the ones that Suzanne, was it Suzanne?
Susan, yeah.
Susan, what would have been talking about is that negative. And I always tell managers and leaders, like, you got to kind of try and isolate them, really concentrate on your 27%, your best employees, because that's where all your productivity comes from.
Okay, so question from Vanessa. What are your tips for breaking the habit of worrying? We spend a lot of time losing sleep, worrying about things that we can't change, and it often holds us back. Thoughts? And I would definitely agree with that. Once you get into that cycle of worrying, it definitely can spiral. So how do we break those? How do we break that habit?
There's a couple little tricks you can do. First thing, when you wake up in the morning, when your feet touch the ground, rather than start worrying, start thinking of things to be grateful for. And there's an endless amount. It can be the fact that you have a roof over your head, the hot water will come out of your tap, the toothpaste will come out of your thing, that the cup of coffee will come out of your machine, that you're surrounded by great people. And the very last thing you should think about before you go to bed is something to be grateful for as well. And it kind of tricks the brain a little bit. Or if you're laying in bed and you have negative thoughts, then try and think of more positive thoughts. Think of things that went well that day, people that you care about. And for me, I think of my emotions as my most sacred domain. And when I first kind of started down this path, and I have to tell you, in my life, in every area of my life, we have been able to reap tremendous success financially, emotionally, with our friends, with our health, when we really started to stop worrying about stuff and started to focus on things to be more grateful for. So I had this little, if I lose a big deal, and now you can imagine, as a professional speaker, we saw basically all of our business evaporate. So I had a moment of worry, probably the biggest financial hit we would have taken ever in our life. And what my wife and I did was, we said, we're going to give it a week. Now, we normally would never do that. We have a rule that we'll give ourselves 3 hours. So if something bad happens, we say, we'll worry about it for 3 hours and then we'll pick ourselves up. We gave ourselves a week. I said, Tanya, I'm not going online. I'm not doing anything. I need to clear my head and figure out how we're going to reinvent ourselves. And then a week into it, we started doing virtual training and virtual certifications, all the things that we needed to do. So find something that works for you. If you're worrying about something and it's a valid thing to worry about, then give yourself a time limit. I'm going to worry about this for 2 hours, and then I'm going to start focusing on something positive. Go take the stress test, because what you'll do is it will help you identify stressors in your life, and you'll start to identify stressors that you have no control over. You can't control who gets elected, or once you make your vote, everything after that you have no control over. So look at the things that you're stressing about, and if you don't have control, then you have to learn to bury that and move on to things you can control in your life.
I think that's good. It's interesting. I use something sort of that time bound, those limits. I use something like that, with my kids when they're having a meltdown. I was like, look, you've got 5 minutes to use whatever language you want, whatever words you want. You've got 5 minutes. You'll not get in trouble for anything you say, but after 5 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
Move on. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you take advantage of those 5 minutes. Let me tell you, I got lots of colorful words. One of the things that you had mentioned earlier, and it goes along obviously with the changing your mindset and setting those goals. You mentioned a dream sheet, and a lot of people have heard of sort of vision boards. What's the difference, and why would I choose one or the other?
Well, if I can go back to when Susan had her question, and it kind of ties into this as well. Dream sheets and vision boards serve the same function. So anyone who doesn't know what a vision board is when you post pictures of the things that you want to achieve in your life. So your ideal weight, maybe you want to buy a camper trailer, you want to own a certain house, like those type of things. So you would put those in the vision board. Dream sheet, you do the same things. There's a couple tricks to doing a dream sheet. And again, we had more time together, we dig a little deeper into this. When I write things on a dream sheet, I write them in present tense, and I try and write them after the words I am. Because I am are two of the most powerful words in the English language, because anything you put after the words I am, you actually start to create. And think about it. If you woke up this morning, you said, I am tired. It's almost like you start to create being tired. I am hungry. I am a good father. I am a great manager. I am a good friend. Whatever we put after that, we tend to create. So the dream sheet's powerful in that sense. The challenge I have with a vision board is that if you are surrounded with people that might not be as positive as you, and as Susan had said, negative people and you put stuff on your vision board, they might just pop into your office or cubicle, and maybe you got a picture of somebody who looks like Brad Pitt up there, and that's the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, and your friends look at you and they go, that ain't never going to happen. All of the good men are taken, or you're never going to get a car like that because your credit's no good. Like, what happens is now you have to overcome the opposition of your friends. So you have to convince them that, no, I'm working hard. I'm going to get that someday. So for me, it's these well-meaning, they call themselves friends. I'm only telling you this, Eddie, because I'm your friend. And I always call them my frenemies. They act like your friend, but they're more like your enemy. So for me, the vision board is great if you have it in a place where you don't have to justify it or you don't have to overcome someone's opposition. What I like with the dream sheet is I take it with me everywhere I go. So if I'm in a lineup at an airport, I just open it up and I just kind of review my goals. Where am I at? What am I working on? And it's just portable. And that hence is why I find it better.
That's great. I think that people are probably, struggling a little bit with goals right now. And, the first goal is, okay, let's just get through the pandemic. And, I think that from what we've talked about today, we don't need to wait to get through this to start setting those goals and working towards them. We have those opportunities right now because there are so many things to be grateful for. And we can continue to build our business and build our relationships and build our networks right now.
That's right. And my wife and I, we did the exact same thing. The COVID-15, we started the COVID diet, or the COVID pandemic. We started to eat way too much food, and I literally put 15 pounds back on again. And, I got the old Fit watch back out and started doing our 10,000 steps a day, started watching our diet, and just brought ourselves back in line. And I'm back to less than I was before this started. But it's using this time to benefit. I learned all kinds of new skills on the computer. Would never have had the opportunity. You don't want to come out at the end of this and say, oh, I wish I had done this.
Right.
So use this opportunity to retool and make an improvement.
Yeah, and I have vastly improved my bread making skills. I'm not going to lie through this. I fully jumped on board that bandwagon. But you're right. Like we don't need to wait. Sort of until, because, we're going to have a new normal for a really long time now. And I think there's some great opportunities that you've helped us identify.
Yes. Well, that's great. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any closing remarks? Because I've got a few, but I want to let you go first.
The only thing you can expect an email from me. You're probably going to get it in about 20 minutes, and it'll give you access to the stress test. And if you are feeling a little pressured, sign up for the stress program. I just think it's a kind of a nice way to kind of deal with this. And look, if you ever want to chat or anything, I'm the easiest person in the world to talk to. So my information is back there somewhere, and you'll get it on my email as well. So I just thank everyone for allowing me to come into their computer today and spend some time with you.
No, I really, Eddie, thank you. I really appreciate it. I think we've given us all a lot of things to think about. And like I said, we have the ability to make, some of these goals, make some of these changes right now. And I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
I do want to let everyone listening know about, there's 3 things. So if you want to write down 1, 2, and 3 on your piece of paper in front of you right now. Next phase, so phase 2 opens up tomorrow, which officially we've graduated phase 1, so we're going into phase 2, which is really exciting. We are bringing in DynaCare tomorrow as part of our expert series, and we have a couple health and safety experts talking about benchmarking the safety standards in the workplace. So top 10 safety tips in your workplace to deal with COVID-19. So that is 1 o'clock tomorrow. It is another free webinar, so you can register at bramptonbot.com/expert series. And it will also be broadcast on Facebook Live. So you definitely don't want to miss out on that one. So tomorrow, 1 o'clock. If you are up bright and early tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, we have our weekly Wednesday wake up. So this is, obviously we're not meeting in person right now. We're not doing business after hours. We're not networking with hugs and handshakes, but we are still networking. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And again, register at bramptonbot.com. The third thing, this is very, very important. Our Business Excellence Awards are coming up. Originally scheduled for May, we have moved them to October. We are going to have the most fabulous virtual event that you have ever seen. The deadline that is coming up for that is June 30th, and that is the deadline for nominations. So if you want to recognize your own business, or you have a client, a customer, someone that you've worked with that you really want to celebrate, get recognition for their business, please nominate them. You have, I want to say, today's Tuesday, you have 1 week left. So bramptonbot.com/BEA2020. So there are some great opportunities there to, again, this goes really well with that sort of that positive thinking and the goal setting, and the BEAs is a great opportunity to recognize a fabulous business. See how I tied that all in there, Eddie?
I like that.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we've got lots of great opportunities coming up. So I will be probably emailing you, and Eddie will be emailing you, and make sure you've got your calendars marked with those important dates. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see everyone again soon.
Bye-bye.